And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in our neighborhood. It is I, John,
and Kanika,
back with Doing Too Much podcast. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well also. Thank you for asking. Say, I was wondering, I'm not for sure if you told me, but as a kid, what did you want to be that was probably bigger than life? Like, when I say bigger than life, I mean, I remember, like, for an example, people said you could be the president of the United States. You know what I'm saying? Did you, like, what was the largest professional career that you thought, that you envisioned that you would do?
I thought I was going to be the owner of a multi-million-dollar, this is how long ago it was because we were talking about multi-million-dollar conglomerate. I was going to own, it was like a string of spas. In the middle, it was a spa, and on the right and the left, it would be a salon, and on the other was a barbershop. So then everybody could come in and get all of their services in the same place. And so it was going to be those all over the country, and then it was going to be international.
Did you ever come up with a name for it?
No, I don't think I did. This was my high school. When I graduated from high school, that was what I wanted to. Okay, so in our church, all the seniors had to write out this thing about what they planned to do when they graduated and went away to college, right? And so mine was based off of that. So when I went to state, I ended up in science all for the wrong reasons, because I really wanted to be in the Drew program. At state, they have this science program. It's called the Charles Drew. At the time, it was called the Charles Drew Math and Science.
He's Sigma chapter, bro.
Sir. Okay. Charles Drew Math and Science Laboratory. I think that was what it was called at the time. I think the name has changed, but a little bit. But my brother was in it when he was at state, and he was like, "This is a really good program, Nika. You need to be in it." And so I wanted to go into business, but he told me this program was so good that I went undecided so that I could be in this program, which it really turned out being a great program, and it was really helpful to me starting out. But it took me off my path. When I came in, like, I could do business classes for electives, but I couldn't immerse myself in the whole idea of all the things I needed to do that, because I was in a science and math program. And so I kind of veered away and ended up in a different direction. But I had plans on plans about what it was going to look like.
You know, I want to say this to those of you that don't know. I'm going to try to be as descriptive as possible. If she had plans for this, I'm so hurt that, well, I guess I'm not hurt. She definitely wouldn't have, she would have been on a different mission, because the way that she plans is so organized. And it's so crazy that you got out of your pocket. And if you hypothetically went into that, like, what did it look like for you then? The reason why I just want to touch on, like, how things come together.
What do you mean?
Well, that's why I want you to tell me, like, let's say if you just went through it with the life, not the life, but the way that you got your education. If you say, like, you had the same habits, but you applied it to the business portion, like, where do you think you would have gone? Do you think, like, I don't know what it would look like, but did you have plans on getting your MBA somewhere?
No, because I had a cousin who was pretty successful in business. Truthfully, he was in trucking, but he was successful at it. And he said, Nika, if you know what you want to do, like, you could go to the community college, take a couple of business classes so you know how to structure everything and get going. He was like, don't wait. And it's funny because when you listen to people now that talk about starting these online businesses and podcasts and stuff like that, they say, don't sit there and plan and wait. Just start now and learn as you go along. Like, if you don't start, you're never going to start. And he was like, no, he said, I did not go get a degree. He said, you just go to the community college, you get the classes so that you know how to structure it, and then you just start. And you will learn as you go along. And he was like, and some stuff is going to be rough. He was like, but he said, you can carefully figure it out, because he knew, like, the way I said what I wanted to do, he was like, you could definitely do it. And I don't doubt that he would have assisted me in getting off the ground, but that wasn't my intention anyway. But yeah, he was like, you go on and do it. And I remember at one point in time, he scaled down to, I think, it just being his trucks coming out of here. But he used to be in multiple locations. And so now coming out of multiple locations with multiple contracts. And so with him, he made it seem like all I had to do was get a general understanding of what it's supposed to look like, and then I can organize my steps to get it. Once I got off of the path of thinking of that, it's more difficult to think of it. I guess it's more valuable when you're able to be your own boss, but it's far more work than somebody else just handling your taxes for you and handing you the check at the end. You know what I'm saying? And so when I got into science and I started looking at different ways of really, it was the community for me. I got into I wanted to do community building, and in the way of doing like programming for kids and housing and things of that nature, and just assisting people at, financial planning and stuff. And so it just all kind of morphed from, life told me I had to do this because it was going to pay the bills right now. And then life told me I'm going to do this because it's closer to what I know and I'm more comfortable in this field. And life told me to do this. So over time, life dictated where I ended up, but it wasn't where I had intended to be.
So when you say life, what do you mean?
Like when I got out of college, when I got out of grad school, I said I was going to do a nonprofit, and the nonprofit was going to be focused on Black youth. And what I didn't know was, I knew all of the pieces, but it was the real estate part that got me. Like, I understood what I needed to do to raise money. I understood that. It was the where to start. And after grad school, I went to D.C. because we hadn't really determined what we were.
Correct.
And I went to D.C. and I loved the city. I didn't like the job. And so I left, and I didn't want to settle in Michigan. And so then we were moving. At the time, you and I were going back and forth, and you were talking about moving to Kentucky. And so then at the end of grad school, I started formulating my nonprofit to be in Kentucky. Like, I researched the community and the, where is the best place to be and locations for kids to be able to access. I did all of that. And then you were like, I'm not going to Kentucky. So when I graduated, I went to DC, and then I went back to Michigan, and then we went to Atlanta. But when we went to Atlanta, I was pregnant with Day, and I couldn't see myself doing everything and her. And then in my head, in my head, I was like, what I would love is to really get this off the ground so that Day, and then later Dallas, could grow up in this community center. Like, this is their place too. And then they would know so many people from their community, and they would be like invested in their community and how to help other people who weren't as fortunate as they were. And it just didn't work. Like, I had Day, then I went to work as a teacher so I could have more time, but all that time was for Day. And then Dallas came, and then, we had your sister and your nephews down there, and we were all like a really big family, but we were all trying to reacclimate to, like, we were trying to learn how to adapt to becoming a larger family.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I can't do this. I got to get out, and I need more money so that I can do the things that I want to do. Let me get this nursing degree. And then that turned into something else, and that turned into something else. Then we went overseas, and it was just like, it never came to fruition. You know, nothing that I thought I would do or be came to. Even remember when you did the cigar bar, like a year later, I was like, I would love a wine bar. And I had thought everything through out, what it would look like and what the machines were going to be and all this other stuff. And it's just like, it was too much life and not enough time. It was too much of everything in my life and not enough space for me to really, really think. And so it's funny because I was 18. I just took my senior book from my mom's house, and I'm reading like what I plan to do. And it was like, that was my thing. I wanted to be on my own, and I wanted to do something that, like, in my salons, it was only going to be Black barbers and Black hairstylists. And
you were already thinking like that then?
yeah, it was going to be Black massage therapists. It was going to be everything. Black on black on black on black. And it was just like, I mean, all the way down to the cleaning company. It was just going to be us all day long. You know what I'm saying? And that was me at 18. And then me again at 27. And then me again at 31. And then me again. And even when I came back here, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So it's me again at 42.
So I'm listening, and that seems like life. Like, you can't, no matter what situation you're in, most likely life is going to change your path. Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you still have those ideas, like as far as possible businesses along the salon, or doing a community service? A community center still? Like, are those still like on the list? It's just not as important right now. But if you get to a certain place, would you like to make sure that you complete those things?
Yeah, because I know that even, what did I graduate almost 20 years ago from grad school? Even if I were to start it now, it would still be the same structure. And I guarantee you, the situation that our communities tend to be in is still called for. There's nothing that I had planned that isn't still necessary. And so at some point, I would love to do that. I really would.
Which would, of order of importance, what would you like to see?
I would like to see more of the for-profit types of things happen before the nonprofit, because I want to be able to do the nonprofit the way I want. And I know you can get funds from, outside sources, but I want to be able to be selective about those outside sources, because you have to take on part of their agenda. They give stipulations to their money in a lot of cases.
And somebody's really got to believe in you to let you do it free-spirited. Right?
Yeah, and I don't really want people to determine what I'm going to do, because they don't see what I see.
Okay, so what is the ultimate, like, let's say if this was a pitch, what is the goal of what you're trying to create? Because they can't see what you see.
You can't see what I don't really have a pitch, and that's probably my biggest thing, is being able to sit down and just explain to somebody. But
not when I say pitch, I meant like, what are they supposed to see? What is the outcome?
The outcome.
How do they know that, okay, this is what we got it. That was a great plan. And what are they seeing?
So this is how I envision it. I envisioned, even at that age, younger, I envisioned my community standing outside, and it's raining, and they're in a pavilion. You know how when we're in a park and it has a little covered space with picnic, you still get all the wind, It's still cold. You still gonna get some rain coming in on the sides, but you're sheltered, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we set those things up for ourselves, with family members, with our job. Like we're all making sure we're covered, but we're not in a closed home with heat or, air. It's not comfortable. And so my goal is to really help people start to cushion their life with the things, not the bare necessities, but those things that give true, like, a quality of life that we're deserving of. So I think that there's no reason why the wealth gap is so big between our community and other communities. There's no reason why our health is poorer in a lot of situations. Like it's the disparities between us and cardiovascular health and breast death due to breast cancer or many other cancers actually.
You don't. Well,
I don't think that we should be at that level. I feel like there are things that should be put in place to help us kind of make up for that. Because I think you had conversations before where you talk about how we're the youngest culture in the whole entire world. Like African Americans were created as a culture by ourselves 400 years ago when we were here, because when they stripped everything from us, we had to recreate a whole culture based off of memory of what we had from before and what we could pass on. But the interesting thing is that we were, that I know of, the only culture that was born into a traumatic situation. We were traumatized consistently over a course of years, and that was what our culture knew in the beginning. And when we finally got free, even before we were free, we were still creating things and thinking and making, it's before all of us were free. I mean, but once we were free, you've said before, the advancements we've made in comparison to other cultures, like we're running. They've been able to stroll because they have this long history, and all these lessons and this wealth and things to pass on and all. And we literally are babies, in the sense that we can't really say we're African because so much of it was taken that we barely remember. It's funny because you'll see us dance, and the way we dance is similar to over there. It's things that come through the blood, I really believe. But there's so many things that we lost.
Honestly, like just listening to you, and the Western white people just put us in the box of Africans because of melanin.
Yeah.
Because overall, we're Americans like them.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's like we're Americans because we watched how this works. We could tell you exactly how. I could predict things that are going to happen in the United States because there ain't nothing new under the sun over here. Mm-hmm. Like we do the same thing over and over again. And so for us to be so young and for us to be able to not only be young, but be born into trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma and still come out and be as resilient as we are, I don't think you need to give us much in order to make a lot. That's what we've learned to do. You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? But think of what would happen if we gave us what everybody else got. We would kill y'all out here. Not literally kill y'all, but we would be out here like leading. We would be leading and becoming something amazing and great. And I just feel like we deserve it. You know what I'm saying? We deserve somebody to, and they'll be like, handouts and blah, blah, blah. No.
I think we just have to pay our dues.
No, I don't. I think that we already did.
No. I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying that's what if you look at the grand scheme of things, if you step back, it was like, look, okay, we see Kobe Bryant out here. He's going to have to pay his dues before he gets to this point. So it's like, okay, we see you doing this, you done this, but you haven't been around long enough.
No, I feel like that is more like, it's like Kobe Bryant, he had the ability, he had the background that allowed him to become great, like in the beginning. He had a great
foundation.
Foundation.
You don't
yeah.
think we did?
No, I feel like our foundation was built on fear, anger, resentment, disparity. And so because we paid it in full in the beginning.
No, so I'm saying, you just said earlier, if I'm not mistaken, that, hey, sometimes I look at the dances we do now.
Yeah.
So what makes you believe that the foundation of like us just being great people, like on the inside, we can take this. So our foundation allowed us, but we had to we got distracted by what they were stripping from us. But
No.
as we move through time, we can see that the information that we got was wrong.
From where?
From white America. They taught us all this information
definitely,
through. We were educated in their language.
Yeah, but I feel like to be able to live here, we got to be able to use it.
Like
no,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm totally understanding.
But I'm telling you, I can't use their playbook and do the same things if I don't have the same pads, the same helmet. Like I can't just.
But we figured. So we're here now. So there's some people that figured it out. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, like, there's going to be a larger population of people but it's that's why we're so young. We don't have enough data.
Yeah, but my goal was, and my hope in the future would be that we move toward leveling the playing field, and there can never really be a level, considering the number of years somebody can build wealth over time and deny wealth from another group in order for. But what I'm saying is, if we had to pay everything up front,
but that's what
we invested our lives and our minds and our bodies into this country ahead of time. The interest is off the fucking charts.
Well, that's I guess.
Give me my stuff.
Are you just referring to just financial?
No, I'm talking about the ability to live in a country where there is not somebody who actually believes that I don't belong here. Like, it's not just, and I don't really care how
that's
people
why,
feel
that's why I
about
feel
me,
like it's too young, though.
What I'm saying is, honestly, socially, politically, financially, all of those things, we already paid. We paid. And so, but what I feel is that they stole the money, typical for America. But at this point, I want to be a resource that helps to redirect that. I want to start to allow us to, I want to close up the pavilion. I want to give people tools so that they can start to build the walls, give people tools so they can start to, create a real solid community for themselves and to prosper. But it's life be lifing. And so sometimes, I can have grand ideas and the grand ideas don't come to fruition because I'm still trying to make sure that the little family that I created with you is living the life that I think that they deserve.
For sure.
So I have to choose my kids before I choose my community. I would like to do them all at the same time. I do my community and it, pour down into my kids. But it's a heavy lift taking care of us. It's a heavy lift trying to figure out. We have so many holes in the bucket that need to be filled. It's like to cover one just forces more water out of the others. And so it's kind of scary not really having a hold of that. And that's why, I was telling you, one of the things I loved about you being in an organization, I've never understood the concept of being in an organization, but I respect it. And to have all of these people with all of these great talents and backgrounds all under an organization with a shared vision and mission and goal, that's how I see the necessary format for really turning us around, taking our brightest minds in education, taking our brightest minds in finance, and putting them all together and telling them what is it that we all need to know. Create a curriculum, and not necessarily for people to have in school, but if we're going to start spitting stuff out into social media, let it be something that's going to grow us. If you're going to have your charter schools or private schools or whatever, let the curriculum feed us. If you're going to be in church, church gathers so many different people. Why are we not teaching the same thing? What I'm learning is you make bigger impacts if you standardize the information. If everybody's getting the same thing, if you get more information on how to invest or easier ways to find money to build a business than somebody else, that's not fair. Because guess what? Somebody else in your community can have a really great idea, and we could all push that forward. We could all support that and push that forward. But we don't get the same information, but we have a wealth of intelligent, like amazing people. And you talk about Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. There are people in our community that will be like, wow, it's just like the exception to the rule. And how did they, they were just exceptional in their craft or whatever. But we got some of those in everything.
Correct.
And like, where are they? So we can lift them up. Like,
because I agree. I think we're so distracted on things that entertain us versus things that could help us grow. So like you said, and we only know things that could distract us long enough to not focus on recognizing those jewels in other fields.
Well, and I think part of that is because we've been traumatized so much that we look for the distraction to not have to focus on the things that hurt us the most. And I believe that from years and years back, not just now, even though now you through black Twitter threads on Instagram, I just started following that. And it's just like you could really lose yourself in what I used to say. You used to talk about me all the time about being on my phone. And I used to try to explain to you, like, I was sad for a long time, not really knowing the extent of my sadness, but I loved Instagram. And I didn't love it for things like clips of drama. I looked for comedy. I looked for things to make me laugh. So the whole time I'm looking for things to make me laugh. And even though I couldn't sort out what was going on with me at the time, I knew I could always find a page with my people who would make me laugh. And you know what we love to do is laugh at whatever's hurting us the most. We will make a joke out of anything that is hurting us the most just so we don't have to hurt that much. And I think that we've been trying to, because if you focus on the trauma, what's going to happen? I mean, we don't have the therapy or the tools to be able to sort through it and make sense of it, to be able to move on from it. And so since that constantly is sitting there in the background, you got to find something else to get you going, you know what I'm saying, to move you in a direction.
I agree. That's the reason why I feel like we're babies in this, because we're distracted because we don't know how to deal with the pain.
Yeah.
So I like that. So what inspires you now then? What is pushing you to get back into that place to where you could possibly do that?
I think the thing, I think it's two things. One, when we were living overseas, before the kids started going to private school, we were financially, everything was good. Like, we were traveling, we were enjoying ourselves in the city. We spent a lot of time with the kids, like just going out to a coffee shop or to the bookstore. And I want that freedom back. And so our kids are about to, like, they're on the fast track to 18. And not that they have to leave at 18, but things change. You know, they're moving toward adulthood. They're so much closer than when they were 4 and 2. And so I want my time with them before the world gets a bit more of a hold on them. And Dallas plans on leaving, like, far away to go to school. And so I want my time with them. And so it's moving me in a direction of saying, okay, what can I do to improve? What can I do to feed that business part of me that I wanted so long ago? And I just didn't feed it. I didn't care. It wasn't that I didn't care, but I just couldn't bring myself to foster those things I needed for that at the time. And so that's one thing. But the other thing is Dallas. When one time we sat, not even one time, at one point Dallas was talking about wanting to be an architect. And I was telling him about the things that were going on in our community and the housing that we have and things of that nature. And Dallas was talking to me about the environment and how architecture can help with the environment depending on what you're doing and all this other stuff. And he and I started talking. And it was a whole neighborhood that we had put together in our heads. And he had this shared vision with me.
What's wrong?
And it's like, I was always pushing black to the kids, right? But Dallas has I want to use what he has as a gift to people. Like, he doesn't want to be an architect 'cause for money. He thinks about how he can help people. And it feeds my spirit to what I wanted to do before. And it just feels like, he's going in a direction that makes me go back into the direction I intended. If he grows up and he becomes what he wants to be, and he and I have an opportunity to build a legacy together off of just what we love, it'd just be amazing. So I feel like these next few years before he goes away to school, I want to work to make sure that I have everything in order so when he comes out, he can just start running. I don't want him to come out and get a job because he needs a job. I want him to come out and get ready to change the world.
Yeah, that's dope.
And even if he's not changing the world, we had talked about, he said, all we have to do is change one neighborhood and then we could go and do it the same way the next time. And it's like he sees longevity, like he sees that it's not just a one and done, and I want him to keep that fire. He inspires me to look back and say, that's what I need to do again.
That's dope. I definitely didn't expect that. And, I just got, I told you, when I see people I don't see regularly, a friend of mine, I asked him, I said, hey, what would you tell your 44-year-old self? He said, what would I tell my 44-year-old self?
How old is he now?
He's got to be 57. Okay. Yeah, and around there, maybe 56. But he was like, man, I would just work on things that I love. Like, and just listening to you say that, like, that's why I work on communication, because I feel like the better I get, the better our relationship gets, because I'll be less misunderstood. My kids, I can find out what's troubling them because I've recognized they show this something, or I can hear the tone in their voice or how their cadence is changed, where I can see that they're happy or they're not as happy. And I feel like that's why I want this family to grow, because if we can create a better way to communicate to each other, why wouldn't it work outside of the house? So listening to you being inspired by Dallas wanting to do architecture just to help people, not for the drive of the dollar. And that's why I said money is a distraction. You do need money to live, but the way that Dallas views it, he's going to get an enormous amount of money because he's going to find how to help people through something that he loves. And when you're driven by something that you love, nobody can take it away from you other than life. So if we can give him those resources to make sure that life doesn't catch him before he can't help people, we're going to be in a better place before you know it.
Yeah.
And that's dope. I'm glad we were where you were able to touch upon that inspiration, because, to be so close to somebody so young that can inspire you is a blessing. And I wonder how many parents out there are talking to their kids where their kids can light a fire up under them and give them another reason to go start that fire and making something happen and be great. Not get the life part, because life does catch us. But if you could ever get back to what made you genuinely happy on the inside, where you feel like, I can do this, that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
So what are you doing then to, I guess, how are you working on this inspiration so you can get back there? Because I'm telling you, I'm just thinking about ways that I can help us get to wherever you're trying to get to, because I feel like we're all aligned anyway. But what are you doing to get closer to that? What is your position in all of this?
There are multiple stages to change, and so there's contemplation when you're thinking about maybe you might want to make a move, and then there's planning that comes after that, right? So right now I'm in the planning stage. This is usually the stage in which I fall apart because I will plan down to the T, but by the time I'm done planning, I'm so tired that implementation, it's hard for me to get into the implementation of it all. And so I actually have aligned myself with a friend who understands what what I see. And so I'm pulling things together. One thing I love about us in these last couple of years, I see so many of us online who are sharing little pieces of information on how to help people. They don't give you everything because they want you to take the class and pay $50,000 so they can give you the whole thing. But putting together the pieces to understand that all of this stuff isn't so hard. It really is just a bunch of small steps that build up into something big. So right now, I've been spinning in this planning stage, but in talking to actually two of my friends on separate occasions, they see what I'm saying, and I feel like they have more. One is like great in like creative ideas, and the other one is really great with follow through. And so it really helps me who has a problem with implementation. So I guess right now it's really using my strength of organization so I can, it's the idea of The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell's book. And he says there are mavens. They're the people that have the ideas. And then there are salespeople. Those are the ones who can sell the ideas to others. And then there are connectors, the ones who find the people for the salespeople to sell to. And so right now I'm being a maven. I got my ideas and I'm pulling them together, and it's piece by piece, and it's much smaller than the grand scale I thought I could accomplish at 20, when I was, in those younger stages. But the beauty of how I speak, I was enough of a salesperson to get my connector, who is my follow through person, to really be like, all right, Nico, whatever you want to do, let's do it. And they also understand that I drag my feet at a point, and they won't let me do that because they'll run without me. So it's much like that. But I have another maven who I really respect in the ideas that she has and the energy she provides. And so now not only am I trying to build my own sense of knowledge in planning this out, but I'm surrounding myself with people who fill in the blanks or the gaps that I have. And I probably have a few more gaps that I need to fill in, and I need to kind of, that might be my connector's job to find those people. But I'm surrounding myself. I'm filling myself up, and I'm surrounding myself in order to get this going.
No doubt. That seems pretty. I'm just so happy that I'm gonna be a part of it. I was trying to figure out what my role in all of this is, and you had said it. I'm the salesperson working on my information so that we can help people increase the quality of life by purposely improving just themselves, investing in themselves, and working on their family.
I definitely see you, and I think I've told you this a number of times. I see your greatest strength, and maybe that's why you're working on communication now, to be the salesperson, but I see your greatest strength as the connector. Like, it doesn't take much for you to convince people to buy into you, into what you believe. Like, number one, I think part of it is if you speak on things that you can convince people, but also just your ability to connect with people. They want to help you. They want to do things with you. They feel like whatever you're doing, that's where the fun must be. I mean, you're not fun, John, like you used to be for some people, but you're definitely someone who connects. Like, you find a way to get your hand in a lot of different groups, and meet a lot of different people. And people just kind of really like to be around you.
I'm the new fun.
Yeah.
It hasn't been identified
the
yet.
new fun has not been sold.
Not to anybody.
It has not been sold in stores yet.
Oh my gosh.
But
I'll say this. I evaluate the different levels of fun I've had throughout life. The fun that I have now has been the most productive. That's why I said the fun in the past was all distractions preventing me from trying to get to this point. And that's why I feel like once I achieve this mastery of communication, I'll be able to tell people, hey, life can look way different if you walk like toward this way, because all of that over there, it could destroy everything that you in your mind want to create. So if you're going to already be lifing, don't let the other extra distractions prevent you from getting to what you wanted when you were the freshest, the core part before all of the stuff started to come out of nowhere.
Yeah. But I think the funny thing is you've always, your salesperson part of you has never been telling people and convincing them with words. You do it by what you do. When you do stuff and it looks super fun to people, they'll be like, I want to do that too. It didn't matter if John was jumping into a port at Jamaica, the Bahamas, or wherever we were. It like, wherever you are, you make whatever you're doing look fun without and I think that's the difference in you now. Now you try to discuss with people and explain to them where you're going. Before, you didn't have time to explain to people what you were doing. You were just doing stuff and people were like, look, I
was the show.
If we want to have fun with the show, we got to just follow the show. And you did you. And then the people kind of followed behind you. They wanted to have a good time, so they knew that that's where they needed to go. Call John for a good time.
Yeah.
But now you really take the time to sit down and talk to people, and you have always been a demonstrator more so. So trying to sell using a different tactic, such as being able to communicate and convince through your words, it's just a different path. But you definitely have been a salesperson without even opening your mouth for years and years and years. Like, for real, I'm telling you guys, when we moved to Atlanta, friends began to move to Atlanta. When he moved to Orlando, friends moved to Orlando. When we moved overseas, friends moved overseas. It's interesting to see it, the ability you had to do that. But anyway.
I don't know see, I told you, the way that you tell a story, it makes it seem like I'm more than I am, but that I didn't do anything. I felt like I created a relationship where they knew that we were always going to be good.
You're a connector. Mm-hmm. That's the connector. Go ahead. You're a connector, and when people experience life with you, you become the salesman and not even trying to be.
Well, now I want to be the salesman because I realize that there's a different quality of life that people haven't been told about. Like, to watch us communicate. I just put in Growing Man, the most recent episode. I said that me and my wife had a conversation about a vocabulary word that I was using incorrectly, and she was trying to make sure that, because it would change the conversation, and it was like, I just want to understand what you're talking about. I'm like, I don't know anybody who does that, and I felt like I grew that day. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of stuff, and I'm like, oh man, like, I feel like that's the type of things that, okay, I'm on the right path, because now my wife, she's going to ask for clarification this way, and I need to be able to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that's one less conversation we'll have. Like, what does she mean by that? We'll just say, hey, I noticed that you used it this way. And it was like, oh, what do you mean? Like, and at first I even felt like, what? I know. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to just be more open to it. And I was like, so even with anybody, I can be open to that. So that made me feel like growing in that way toward my goal, it's a different dopamine, because I know what it's going to do for you and I. And not only that, our communication efforts will rub off on the kids, and they will have it naturally, because they just said, oh, this is how adults act.
You know, what's interesting is like John and I were having a disagreement in the car. And the kids were in the back with headphones, and Dallas was asleep. And so I thought Dave wasn't listening. So we are having a disagreement, and it ends. And a few days later, Dave says, I heard you and Father talking. And she said, I understood what you were saying when you said I XYZ. And she said, what I didn't understand was this. And what I realized there is, number one, they're always watching. You think you always realize that, but you don't. But number two is that she was trying to make sense of why we weren't connecting. And she was really trying to think of, in fairness, what is being said and what does she understand and what she didn't understand, and being able to say, but I didn't understand this part. And rather than brushing it off, when I was a kid, I knew my parents would argue, but I wouldn't try to figure out what they talking about or understand their
or you had
their
like
stance or whatever.
Stay in a kid's place.
Yeah, stay in a kid's place, but they're learning to communicate through us.
Yeah, and
they're learning how to effectively communicate with their partner and just with other people, listening to us. And she said, I understood when you said this, and I agree with that. And I said, well, I had to have a conversation with her about, people don't always see everything the exact same way. And so you have to try to explain to them in the best way you know how, so that your feelings are correctly conveyed to them. Like, and you don't, at one point I had said to you, I'm just stating a fact. I'm not trying to, I wasn't trying to be emotional at all. I was like, I'm just trying to state the fact. And I said, that's the biggest thing, is that once we get emotion into it, then it becomes really messy.
That's my second thing I want to master, my emotions. When I realize this is how you master your emotions. When you master communication, people won't misunderstand you. They even like the firm, when I could say, hey, it's okay for me to feel this way and for me to say this, and you shouldn't feel offended, because that's not the intent of it. And I'm trying to articulate it in a way. But when you're really good in communication, you don't have to say all that. You already know the right words to say. The person that's listening to you knows that, okay, they're not coming from this way. But when you don't understand the other person, you get emotional. Like, why are they talking to me like that?
Yeah.
That's like, because we're babies in this. In the grand scheme of things. That's the reason why they say why old people are wise, because they know it ain't even that serious. And it's like, so just imagine if we have a generation of kids who are excellent communicators. It would be so much better when you walk through life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real wealth, when you can be put in any location on the United States, in the world. And I was about to say the United States, because there's definitely some tough places in the United States, but any place in the world where you're so effective as a communicator, the person or the environment doesn't find you a threat, and they're trying to figure out, why are you there? Like just on a peaceful thing. Like, this brother's not supposed to be here, but he doesn't look like a threat. Like, his mannerisms is like, oh, it's okay. And I think we don't know how to, because we're always on the guard. Like, what are they going to do to us? But we don't know how to communicate. So when we become better communicators, we can control our emotions a lot better. And hopefully going forward with you and I can control my emotions where I don't. I know I mess with your emotions because of words that I use, and I typically I can tell when your mood changes. And then it makes me so mad when you be like, nothing's wrong. And I'm like, look, I've recognized your temperament in the last 3 seconds, and now something's wrong, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what did I say? Because if you don't tell me, it's like you're leaving it up for my own interpretation. Like, that's why sometimes I come to you and I say, hey, like, remember when I told you, what was it that I told you? I looked up on I say, yeah, Ivy League schools.
Don't give scholarships.
Yeah, and you was like, why don't they? And I was like, oh. So in my head, I'm like,
No, I said, yes, they do. And he was like, no, they don't. And then we didn't talk anymore.
Yeah, I know,
about
but
that.
it wasn't happy though. It was like
yeah.
the way that I took it, he was like, he don't know what he talking about. And I was like, I'm gonna have to show her this because I don't want her to have that thought. And I showed her, like, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, in my head, that was my interpretation. I was like, look, I know this is true because I've seen it with my eyes. It may not be true, but I definitely know I've read it before and I showed you, and it made me feel like I had to show you because I felt like he was like, he always saying stuff he don't know what he's talking.
Well, what I had decided is I thought that, and you said it with so much conviction. I was like, I don't have anything to prove it, so oh well. And then I just didn't care about it anymore.
I know, but to me, I feel like when I open my mouth, I want the credibility of. I don't want to sound like, oh, John had passion and he must have read it before. You know, I was like, John just read it in his mouth. Like, you don't know what's true coming out of John's mouth.
Because truth be told, in the history, John will have been one to say 93% of people da-da-da-da-da. And you like, that is not true.
Yeah.
Like, he don't have no numbers, no research to prove it, but John will hit you with a percentage.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that majority of it wouldn't be where you could look it up, but I would say things. Oh, okay. But I mean, like whatever I was saying.
Did you used to throw out percentages out?
I didn't disagree. I absolutely did. Because numbers look like numbers to me. No, but I really do like in communication and emotions, and I think we'll evolve as a species where we can actually do better with each other. Because I think it's these bots and all these distractions will prevent us from getting there. Okay. But what kind of shirt you got on? I wanted to.
Oh, I had this. My friend for her birthday, she did. She wanted everybody to wear something that had a message, an uplifting message on it. And mine said "Defy stereotypes." Wait, is it I defy? Yeah, I defy stereotypes.
No doubt.
Yeah, it was great to see like women with all kinds of sweatshirts, jackets, hats, everything, and it just had really, really great positive messaging on it.
No doubt. Anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
My community. I love y'all.
Yeah, shout out to her community, her hood adjacent community. Mm-hmm. No, but shout out to everybody who's actively working on just trying to get better in anything, even if it's in your job because you're chasing a dollar. I hope whatever amount that you get there so that you can start focusing on other things because that money is a distraction out of this world. Y'all make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you cannot control. Be great on purpose. Boom.